Agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo. Okwogera njogera omweru taakira muddugavu, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo. Nakamwantette agenze ku mbuga okundoopa, nze naakola ntya? Agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo. Okwogera njogera ensuwa eyogera n'olwendo, agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo. Okwogera njogera omweru taakira muddugavu, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo. Nakamwantette agenze ku mbuga okundoopa, nze naakola ntya? Agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo. Okwogera njogera ensuwa eyogera n'olwendo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo, agalilala, agalilala mu nkolimbo.
Great institutions of learning, all founded through the goodwill of men and women who cared. Each institution breathing hope into generations of future leaders in our community. Allen University graduate Joseph Delane. Benedict College graduate Mojeska Simpkins. South Carolina State University graduate Dr. Benjamin E. Mays. And Claflin University graduate Dr. Leo Twiggs, artist, author, and educator, whose book, Messages from Home, is celebrated as one of America's most illuminating portraits of the South.
Probably 6th or 7th grade. Back there we had field day. I don't know whether you remember field. All the schools got together. During field day you'd have exhibits of things that you'd do in the classrooms, and every class had a little exhibit out there. And one day I wanted to do a piece of art to go out there. And I wanted to do a picture that people would be impressed with. I don't know why I wanted to do it that way. But I took my bike and rode it out to my school. And I went to what is now St. Stephen Elementary School. And I rode my bike out to that school, and I laid that wallpaper down on the back of the paper and got off my bike and drew the school. I took some rulers and school was brick, and I drew the school and put it on display. And everybody really, they didn't have a lot of photography back then, and so people just thought that was how that boy could see that. And I'll never forget, before that I used to copy from cartoons and copy books out of Little Red Rider and all the cartoons. I used to copy it. And then I did that, and after that I never copied again. And I think that was a kind of liberation moment for me. But I think also that when people saw it and they started praising it and telling me how good it was, I mean, that was so inspiring to me. And that's what gave me hope, really, from that very early age. I was very close to my mom. And the reason I was is because my father died when I was 15. And I became head of the household, so to speak. And I have 5 brothers and a sister. There were 7 of us. When my father died, I'll never forget, he called me to his bedside and he said, you got to take over the family now. He built a house, and we had a house, and we were staying up on the road, so to speak. My grandmother's in the back. My grandmother lived across the branch. And I remember all of these, my grandmother, my uncle, all of these folks. So they became the people that supported us. I used to work at the theater, and sometimes I had to come down after the theater. I got off at 11 o'clock, got out there by 11:15 every night, and I had to come down that street, and I'll never forget, the light ended where the pavement ended. And that's where the last house that white people lived in. And I had to go down this dark road. And at the end of this road, I had to make that right turn. And when I look up, there was a light in the house. All the houses along the street were dark. There was a light in the house. And my mom was waiting up for me. Growing up, these images were embedded in my mind. And they were images that I felt said something about my connection to life. For instance, when you look at a work of, if you look at the work that's behind me, which is an image of a figure, and the figure seems to be holding a child, and the child obviously is a black child, and above it are two images of frightened folks. Well, I was frightened when I was walking down there from that theater, because I lived in a time where you could disappear and nobody cared. Everybody in the school, because I graduated valedictorian, would say to me, yeah, you ought to go to college. You had no money. I said, boy, you ought to go to college. But there was absolutely no money. And then the white pastor of the Baptist church in St. Stephen, that white Baptist church that's on that road that turns into Mendel Rivers Road, he came by, took my stuff, put it in the car, and drove me to Orangeburg. I had never been to Orangeburg before. He drove me, I'll never forget, riding through Utahville, I saw those peach trees, and they just stuck in my mind. They were blooming, it was spring, and we went to Orangeburg, and he took me to the Baptist church here in Orangeburg. And the Baptist church is one of the biggest churches in the state, right across from the park over there. And so when he took me to the church, he took me to the pastor of that church. And the pastor of that church went on to be named really one of the leading Baptist ministers in the country. But at that time, he was, I think his name was O'Kane. And so he took me to that, and the two of them got in their car and brought me to class, to the president's office. And I know the president probably said, you know, who are these two white people bringing this little black boy in here? And they said, what can you do for him? And the president said, Seabrook was the president at the time, J.J. Seabrook. He said, well, what we can do is we can give him a scholarship for his room and board, but he still has to get tuition. And he also has to have a recommendation from a Methodist minister, because Black was Methodist school, and that's how you got in. So me the way. And I think he showed me the way because I was doing posters around town. I'd do posters on the side of buildings. I would do paintings, and people saw them. And he was a white minister. I didn't even know he even knew about me, but somehow he did.
Dr. Leo Twiggs, the 2014 Future Leader Scholarship Initiative Portrait of Hope.
Hope is the fuel that you put in the motor that drives your aspirations. It's the fuel. If you don't have hope, then you can't survive, because even in the darkest times, you have to believe that there's a better day. And that's what hope is. Hope that it might not be happening now, but if you hang in there and if you stay in there, it's gonna happen.